Welcome back to the show. We got a lot lined up for you today. Charlie Gasparino, Week in Review. He's got some incredible comments for us to hear, and you're going to want to hear them. Trust me when I tell you, they are not taking their eye off of the ball here. They know something is very wrong with Ethereum's free pass and why Ripple's being sued. I tell you, you're going to like it. And then we're also going to talk about this. This is big. The Fed is to be granted the power to use distributed ledger technology in a new bill, and we haven't heard a lot about it, but you're going to today. And what about this USD Tether? We keep hearing about a possible takedown or that going away. We need to pay attention to that because if the Fed's getting power, we'll get into it. The SEC is losing credibility rather. And Attorney Hogan has a tweet that's going to clear it up and make it very, very clear for all of us. And the senator is putting pressure on the SEC for crypto clarity. Congress is getting into this thing, and I tell you, something is going to get cleared up sooner rather than later. Let's roll that beautiful intro.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got a great one lined up for you today. Let's take a look at this. This is the market cap right here. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Sunday morning. It's September 26th. And happy birthday to my son. He is amazing, and I couldn't be more proud of what he's doing. Let's all wish him a happy birthday in the comment section below. And my grandson was actually the day before, so pretty lucky. We got a packed weekend with birthdays in the family here. $1.905 trillion cryptocurrency market cap this morning. We're up just a little more than 0.5% here. We see Bitcoin just sitting over 43,000 and Ethereum at 2971 here, and Cardano at 226. XRP at 94 cents, and Cardano's had some good news over the weekend. We'll talk about a little bit of that, I think, today. If not, we'll catch it in the next video. Shout out to Charles and everything they're doing. We see 90 cents is the low side of the XRP price range, and the upper side is 95.28. So we're sitting at 95.49 according to Fiat Links. Let's get into the news because there's a lot of it. We see here today, SEC.gov announced an award to a whistleblower, approximately $36 million for providing crucial information on an illegal scheme. Whistleblower award can range from 10 to 30% of the money collected when the monetary sanctions exceed $1 million. Well, you know what? I wonder if they would actually award Digital Asset Investor for showcasing the fact that there's an underbelly of what appears to be impropriety when it comes to how Ethereum got that free pass. But I tell you what, I think we can leave that to the mainstream media and Charles Gasparino and crew and Eleanor Terrett, I believe it is, because they seem to be on it. More on that in a second. Tom Emmer here, who is a huge advocate for crypto and crypto clarity, says, what is a security? What is a digital asset? How can we craft a framework that keeps crypto accessible for millions of Americans? And he thanks here the team at Coinbase and others here for meeting with him today. That was a couple days ago. But the reminder of this setup here is that Tom Emmer has the Securities Clarity Act. That's why I wanted to show this piece, that he is working behind the scenes, and I like his Securities Clarities Act. And it doesn't mean that I don't like the Token Taxonomy Act, because I like that too. But I think legislation like this is very light touch, but at the same time really gets the SEC back in its own lane and out of the way of innovation when it comes to digital assets, blockchain, and crypto. Looking right here, this is a big deal potentially right here. So U.S. Congress quietly sneaks in crypto bill amendment authorizing central bank digital currencies. The bill is called the Digital Asset Market Structure and Investor Protection Act 2. When I say that 5 times fast, digital asset bill setting future rules for crypto. Hidden in this bill, changes to the foundation of money. Now, Ron Hammond did comment on this and said there was nothing hidden, that he was well aware of it. But Ron's on the inside of the secret dome. So for Ron, I know it's not hidden because he's on top of everything. But for us and the general public and retail investors, it does feel like it was tucked in and hidden. So, I mean, it's really a matter of perspective of where you stand here. But listen to what has actually been put in this bill. Now, I don't know if it'll pass, but just this is an insight of what's coming, I believe. It says here, and I'll unhighlight this because I know where to read now. So, to supervise and regulate through the Secretary of Treasury the issue and retirement of Federal Reserve notes, both physical and digital, except for the cancellation, destruction, and accounting with respect to such cancellation and destruction of notes unfit for circulation, and to prescribe rules and regulations, including appropriate technology, under which such notes may be delivered by the Secretary of Treasury to the Federal Reserve agents applying therefor. So far, so good, but the next section contains the real story. According to the Digital Asset Bill, Federal Reserve notes will in the future also be issued digitally. Listen to this. Federal Reserve notes to be issued at the discretion of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. It says here, for the purpose of making an advances to Federal Reserve notes through the Federal Reserve agents as hereinafter set forth for no other purpose are authorized, notwithstanding in any other provision of law. The Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System is authorized to issue digital versions of Federal Reserve notes in addition to current physical Federal Reserve notes. Further, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, after consultation with the Secretary of Treasury, is authorized to use distributed ledger technology for the creation, distribution, and recordation of all transactions involving digital Federal Reserve notes. That is pretty remarkable right there, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this would obviously have to pass, so that would be remarkable too, because Congress is slow, right? But the reality is this is the verbiage and the language that's really giving the authority, if it were to be passed, for the Federal Reserve, granted through the Treasury, to be able to issue, record all transactions, and distribute using distributed ledger technology. Now, quite the leap and speculative, of course, but who do we know that is piloting private ledger for central banks to launch their CBDCs? I'm having a tough time coming up with it. Maybe you guys will think of something. I don't know. I don't know the answer. Maybe it's Stellar Network. Maybe it's not XRP Ledger. Maybe it's neither one. But one thing we do know is Ripple is in fact doing private ledger for central banks around the world. Bhutan is absolutely one of them. They've already started. So listen, when it comes down to it, I remember when we had Bob Way on the show a couple years ago, and we had the conversation about, it doesn't take all the banks doing it. It just takes two. It doesn't work if it's one, because if you just have one, you got no one to use it with. But when you have two banks that begin to use it, well. We also know that the Digital Pound Foundation in the UK, Bank of England, right, does involve Susan Friedman of Ripple. We know Bank of England has been a partner to Ripple for a very long time. Speculative, of course, but is it wrong to think that that is a very, very short leap that they could become one of those banks? Of course not. So this gets more interesting by the week, I tell you this. And then while all of this is going on, whether that bill passes or not, Tether is still in the crosshairs because of the lack of transparency, as they say. XRP Crypto Quebec reminds us here, Tether could go to zero, or it could be regulated out of existence. What happens next? Well, the idea here is simply that the New York Attorney General investigation, which is awaiting for an update in a few weeks, finds something and shuts them out, potentially, right? These are discussing these potential things. A Bitcoin price crash triggers it. If it causes liquidity crisis, the peg on Tether could break, exposing the insolvency. This is harder than it seems because the flight to safety from BTC could be Tether, however, right? So looking at this, then the other point of this is that this doesn't happen instantly, but it could happen quickly. The peg breaks, and most people holding Tether will try to sell it for other crypto, Bitcoin, ETH, and other things. This puts downward pressure on the price of Tether, incentivizing even more people to pass the buck. Automated inter-exchange arbitrage bots might try to exploit emerging gaps in the bid-ask spreads, only to end up with a worthless tether instead as their operators rush to pull the plug. You know, the scenario here is really about a loss of confidence. And if the peg were to break, you could see a tumble, and this could happen to any stable coin, you know, that loses confidence, right? And if the peg were to break, you know, this could be really, really bad for everyone. You know, years ago, and I've said it a bunch on the channel, and I still believe it to a great degree to this day, everything runs on the XRP ledger. At some point, it crosses, touches, goes across it. Let us not forget that the SEC said a long time ago they were going to run a validator node on the XRP ledger. How about that one? Yeah, only to end up suing them later. I think Raytheon has it right here. Here comes XRP ledger to save the day. If we had a decentralized exchange for all the money, as they say, then this would not be an issue about the transparency thereof, whether it's Tether or some other project. And that's why I believe something like the XRP ledger is a decentralized exchange for the world. And if they were to adopt a protocol the way they do IP for the internet we're using right now, and then think about the interledger protocol, which is the next advancement to create the interoperability to any network to help move value. Complement that with the XRP ledger, and we have the new internet of value. But at the same time, we would need some blessing from the right departments, whether it be Congress, the Treasury, FSOC, entities like that acknowledge this new technology. That's what we need. So it gets bigger, and it gets bigger all the time, but it's not going away. Something is going to come of all of this. I really do believe that. And speaking of something to come of all of this, look at this here. This is the SEC losing more credibility when it comes to the case against Ripple and XRP. Let's just take a look really quickly here. First of all, shout out to James K. Filan. He is really incredible, keeping all of us up to date with what's going on here. And there's 3 different documents here that have been submitted for in-camera review as well from the judge. And basically here we're seeing Ripple asserted that the 3 documents could be highly relevant to the case if they are added to the trial of the belatedly produced privilege log. The first 2 documents are regarding the SEC meetings with law firms discussing the unprecedented confusion in the market regarding the SEC's view on the status of digital assets under federal securities law. The third and last evidence possesses an email chain displaying discussions with a third party that highlights SEC's confusion regarding the legal structure of securities. Now, Gary Gensler and Jay Clayton have told us that it is very clear. Well, I think it gets cleared up right here because, you know, we have to remember there's a lot of divisiveness inside of the SEC itself. Elad Roisman, Hester Peirce, and Hester Peirce continues to tell Crypto Mom, continues to tell Fox Business News and Eleanor Terrett that she's heartedly disagrees with Gary Gensler's notion that crypto is destined to fail without government intervention. She also believes it's not the role of regulators to pick winners and losers in the crypto space. She's the one who used the phrase decided lack of clarity in the coin schedule case. A decided lack of clarity. I want you to think about that statement for a minute. The SEC has a decided lack of clarity. We've decided to not be clear on this. And that is so they can pick winners and losers. It really is. And you know what? Brad Garlinghouse even talks about it. Let's check that out. And here it is right here. Brad Garlinghouse thanks Liz Clayman and Charles Gasparino for having him on the show. As I said, American innovation is on the line because of the SEC's refusal to provide a clear framework for crypto. And it was an incredible interview for which we released here. Make sure you go watch the video. It was a great interview They asked incredible questions, and they're not done by a long shot. You're going to hear from Charles Gasparino in a second, but listen to this. Instead of providing a clear frame for crypto, he says, instead of working with the industry, the SEC is using their meetings with companies as lead generation for their enforcement actions. This is referring to the sword and shield approach from Matthew Solomon, the lawyer for Brad Garlinghouse. Once the dust settles, it'll be clear that Ripple is on the right side of the law and the right side of history. Come on in, Brad Garlinghouse. I firmly believe that too. And it will be the most vetted and compliant digital asset once we move through this mess of a case. It really will. And what do you think people are going to know about it then? What do you think investors and institutions will feel confidence about which asset to put their money and business model behind as they move to the new Internet of Value for the world? I think I know what they'll do, not financial advice. But here we also see clearing up the air when it comes to the SEC case. Shout out to Jeremy Hogan. He says, I'm just getting back into the case, and WTF, legal term. He says the SEC sent an email to a third party telling them to analyze a digital asset using the factors in the Hinman speech, which speech was just his personal opinion. I understand now it's the SEC that needs clarity. It is so obvious that this is a mess, and it is really becoming clearly obvious that it does appear that there was massive impropriety potentially on the hands of the people at the time involved in this. And there needs to be an independent investigation done on everyone who touched it from the SEC. Here is Charles Gasparino, who's definitely got his eye on what's going on here like a bloodhound. Him and Eleanor Terrett and Liz Clayman can all tell that there is something very wrong here, and they're not done by a long shot. Now, this incredible 12 minutes here, you should watch it all. It's on my Twitter, but I'm not going to make you sit through it here. But we're going to grab just a couple things here, and this is the part I want to get to you here at 4 minutes, so let me move it up here.
He has to be held accountable, exposures and everything else.
Here we go.
He's going to be spending a lot of time up there. I also would like Jay Clayton to come on our air. I like Jay Clayton. He's the guy that brought the case against Ripple. I've spoken with Jay in the past. He's a good guy. I want to hear his side of the story and his rationale. He only goes on CNBC, but here's the other sort of weird thing. He goes on CNBC. What was it, yesterday? They're clearly following our reporting. They bring him on because they know it's getting a lot of traction, and they don't ask him any questions. And here's why that is such a waste of an interview. He's a CNBC contributor. So think about it. Is anybody at CNBC going to cover this whole issue about Jay Clayton fairly if he's a CNBC contributor? That's a huge conflict of interest. I don't get it. I mean, it's just you can't rely on CNBC to cover the story. So, and he won't go on our air because he's a CNBC contributor. And I'm just saying, I think he's making a huge mistake. I also want to point out, I reached out to Bill Hinman, same thing. He doesn't want to come on. He is not a CNBC contributor as far as I know. But, it's, I think this whole Ripple case and the rationale behind bringing it and not Ethereum needs to be unwound in some way through a hearing. If the Republicans get Congress, there'll probably be a hearing on it.
Wow. Let me tell you, I think Charles Gasparino's got this thing right over the target, and he's not letting go until we all get the answers. Why did SEC, William Hinman, and Jay Clayton at the time all make a decided lack of clarity decision and to look past the initial coin offering that Ethereum actually did? Let's remember very quickly, Ripple did not do an initial coin offering because XRP and the ledger were developed before Ripple the company was. It was all done when the company was actually called OpenCoin. Ripple was developed after the XRP token was developed, and gifted to the company Ripple. So I tell you, there's a lot more to be done here. And I also encourage Eleanor Terrett, Liz Clayman, and Charles Gasparino to look very closely at the fact that Vitalik Buterin, for a very brief time, worked at Ripple, crashed on Stephen Thomas's couch. That was in the early days when they were working on Codius and smart contracts. His visa wasn't going to last or whatever. I think it was the excuse they told us about. And then after that, he left and went and created and formed Ethereum. I think that could be looked into. I think if anyone had any knowledge at how powerful what XRP and the XRP ledger could be at the time, it would be Vitalik Buterin had an inside look under the hood. And that maybe not, could be motive for them wanting to slow Ripple and XRP down to not be competitive to Ethereum and what they were trying to do, and why they worked so hard to get so close to the SEC and to have their ear. I mean, this could be very, very damning. We don't know, but I hope Charles Gasparino digs down on that aspect. Now, let me tell you who else is digging down here. It's Senator Toomey. Senator Toomey is now pressing even harder on Gary Gensler and the SEC. This is from Mr. XRP right here. He says, thank you for your testimony before the Senate Banking Committee on the 14th. He said, I write to follow up on the concerns I expressed at the hearing about the need for regulatory clarity around emerging technologies like cryptocurrencies, including stablecoins. For investors to benefit from fair and competitive marketplace, regulators must proactively provide rules for the road to the industry. Unfortunately, the SEC has instead adopted a strategy of regulating by enforcement in this area. At the hearing, you noted SEC's success in pursuing crypto-related enforcement actions. In many of these enforcement actions, the SEC did not identify the securities involved or the rationale for their status as securities, which would have provided much needed public regulatory clarity. This approach appears related to your belief that the probability is quite remote that any given cryptocurrency platform has zero securities. However, the SEC has a responsibility to do more than just provide probabilistic estimates. We like Senator Toomey. My concerns about the SEC's lack of clarity are shared by others, including SEC commissioners. In one recent enforcement action, he points out that Hester Peirce and Elad Roisman stated they were disappointed by the SEC's failure to explain the digital assets were securities. They've stated this omission was symptomatic of the SEC's reluctance to provide additional guidance about how to determine whether a token being sold as a part of a securities offering or which tokens are securities. In an effort to obtain the additional guidance, attached are questions for the record for a recent hearing. Many of them would give the industry clarity on developing promising technologies within confines of existing laws and regulations. Please provide detailed answers so that innovators have the guidance they need to ensure domestic investment and innovation in these technologies. He's pressing here and putting him in a corner. Tell me what is what. How do we determine outside of the Howey test? Because he used the stable coins as an example to say to him, there is no expectation of profit. How is it that you see stable coins as a security? And he said, I believe they may be. So it really reveals what we've been saying a lot on this channel, which is Gary Gensler would like to see the entire crypto market underneath the purview of the SEC and rolled into the securities framework, from compliance to dealer broker. And I tell you, I think that shuts the door on a lot of people in this world who normally didn't have access to the markets the way that we do now. And they're supposed to be free markets. So I hope that Congress really begins to spread like wildfire when it comes to Senator Toomey and Tom Emmer and others like Warren Davidson and many, many others out here, and they begin to ask the real tough questions and force the SEC to clarify what is and is not an actual security when it comes to crypto assets. That's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below. There's a lot going on. Head on a swivel. This is Crypto You Never Know. Make sure you check out all the links in the description and the comment box. Ladies and gentlemen, Unstoppable Domains has just partnered with Trust Wallet, and all of the domains from Unstoppable are now interoperable with the Trust Wallet. Come on in. Yeah, I'll catch all of you on the next one.